Good afternoon, class. I hope you all been able to find some peace with everything going on in the world. My name is Iturribarria, and today, along with my partner Austin Antonetto, we will be presenting you this study on a measure called the Drug Abuse Screening Test. I'm going to explain to you what it is, why we chose this measure, how it's normally administered, and who this measure could be applied to. So what is it? The drug abuse screening test is an assessment tool used to, and I quote, assess a quantitative index of the degree of consequences related to drug abuse, end quote. What this means is that the assessment looks at multiple different aspects of behavior relating to drug use instead of the intensity of drug use in a single aspect. I will go further into what this means in one of the following slides. It was created by Dr. Harvey A. Skinner, a psychologist who was focused in addiction research in 1982. It could be given to the individual and they self-report everything, or as an interview in more clinical settings. It is comprised of 28 questions regarding involvement with drugs. There are other versions of the drug abuse screening test, which include the DAST 20, a version with only 20 questions, the DAST 10, a version with only 10 questions, and DAST A for adolescents. There are also translated versions of the test available, including Spanish, Mandarin, and Turkish, just to name a few. Our research was centered on the DAST 10, the shortest version of the drug abuse screening test. Now, let me tell you why we chose this measure. There is a survey that is conducted every year by the National Institute on Drug Abuse called Monitoring the Future. This self-reporting survey is given to 8th, 10th, and 12th graders across the nation, and it records their history of drug use. This data has been collected since 1975 and is used to analyze trends on alcohol and drug use amongst the teenage and high school population. The most significant findings from the Monitoring the Future survey indicates that although teenagers have been ditching cigarettes in the past 5 years, they are showing significant increase in vaping, both nicotine vapes and marijuana vapes. This measure also examines attitudes about drugs, and it has shown that students are perceiving illicit drugs as less dangerous than they really are. The Monitoring of the Future survey focuses on the teenage population, but that doesn't mean drug activity stops there. College is full of new experiences from classes to clubs, and sadly, also drug use. The Center for Behavioral Health Statistics and Quality, a part of the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, uses the National Survey of Drug Use and Health in order to analyze information available from individuals in college aged 18 to 22. What the data shows is that 6% of the 9 million students who are full-time 18 to 22-year-old tried one or more illicit drugs for the first time in the past year. That's 540,000 students a year. In the past month, it was recorded that 22.2% of the 9 million, or 2 million students, used an illicit drug in the past month. These include marijuana, cocaine, hallucinogens, heroin, and inhalants. This is the DAST 10 itself. As you can see, it asks questions about drug behaviors in different aspects of an individual's life. The first two questions are directly asking about actual drug use an individual may or may not do. Questions 3 and 5 are more focused on an individual's own perception of their drug use. There are questions regarding medical history and drug use, such as number 4, 9, and 10. It asks if you've experienced blackouts/flashbacks, withdrawal symptoms, or any other medical problems as a direct or indirect result of drug use. Questions 6 and 7 ask about drug use regarding the individual's close relationships. Question 8 involves drug use and the criminal justice system. So overall, it doesn't focus on the intensity of the drug use of an individual, but more of the areas affected by the drug use. In our research, there were different populations that the DAST-10 was assessed with. The samples included both men and women from 18 to 62 that were undergraduate students, individuals entering drug treatment centers, or psychiatric outpatients, for example. In some of the treatment centers, they were also asked to include their educational level, which varied from some high school education to a college degree. The races varied as well, with the majority of them being white and including Asians, African Americans, Hispanic, and less than 10% other. Apart from the information found in our research, I personally was in the process of beginning to volunteer at a substance abuse agency in Inglewood. I was learning how to help instruct a DUI class there. The DAST-10 is given to the individuals admitting into the program. My mentor told me that substance abuse doesn't target anybody specifically. Men or women, rich or poor, educated or non-educated, all the people that are in there have different backgrounds. These people there were doctors, lawyers, chefs, mechanics, and students. I think that shows you, to a small degree, the reliability of the test, but I'll let Austin speak a little bit more about that. Thank you.
In this next section, we will cover 5 different studies that examine the psychometric properties of the DAST-10. This first study, conducted by Everin and colleagues published in 2013, looked at a sample of 100 adolescents with drug use disorder, 123 residential heroin-dependent adults, and 35 alcoholic dependents in order to examine the psychometric properties of this assessment. With regard to internal consistency, the DAST-10 was calculated to have a Cronbach's alpha of 0.92, as well as a test-retest correlational value of 0.57. However, this test-retest correlation was only calculated for the residential heroin-dependent adults group. The DAST-10 was found to be a psychometrically sound drug abuse screening measure with a high conversion validity of 0.76 when correlated with the Drug Use Disorders Identification Test, or the DUTIT. A receiver-operator curve analysis produced an area under curve of 0.973. The DAST-10 had sensitivity and specificity scores of 0.98 and 0.91 respectively, when using the optimal cutoff score of 4. Additionally, the DAST-10 showed good discriminant validity as it significantly differentiated patients with drug use disorder from alcohol dependence. Overall, their findings support the DAST-10 as a reliable and valid drug abuse screening instrument that measures a unidimensional construct. Another study published in 2010 in the Psychology of Addictive Behaviors examined the ability of the DAST-10 to identify prenatal drug use using hair and urine samples as criterion variables. The sample of this study included 300 low-income postpartum women who were recruited from their hospital rooms after giving birth. According to the study, scores on the DAST-10 range from 0 to 8 with a mean of 0.4 and a standard deviation of 0.94, as well as a Cronbach's alpha of 0.62. In identifying any last trimester drug use, analysis produced a receiver-operator curve of 0.64 and an area under curve of 0.739. Sensitivity proved to be poor at only 0.47, but specificity was proved to be good at 0.82. The DAST-10 still identified less than half of women using drugs during the last trimester of pregnancy. Nearly 20% of the sample had a positive toxicology screen, but denied drug use on the DAST-10. Another study published in 1998 in Volume 10 of Psychological Assessment looked at the psychometric properties of the DAST-10 in a sample of psychiatric outpatients. Assessment of these patients consisted of several structured interviews and self-report questionnaires, including the DAST-10. In terms of internal consistency, item analysis of the DAST-10 revealed strong item scale correlations ranging from 0.21 to 0.75, and an alpha coefficient of 0.86. In terms of test-retest reliability, intra-class correlational analysis produced an R value of 0.71. For conversion validity, the DAST-10 and the DAST-20, which was also used in this study, showed a correlation of 0.97. For discriminant validity, an ANOVA produced an F value of 28.63, along with a p-value less than 0.0001, indicating significant differences between the NEVER group, who were outpatients who never abused drugs, former group, outpatients who formerly abused drugs, and current group, outpatients who were currently abusing drugs. With regard to criterion validity, cutoff scores between 1 or 2 and 3 or 4 proved to be the best for producing acceptable sensitivity and specificity. The fourth study in this literature review that provided psychometric statistics on the DAST-10 was published in 2015 in Salud Mental. It compared the psychometric properties between the DAST-10 and DAST-20 after gathering data from 565 participants in addiction residential centers in Mexico. The mean score on the DAST-10 was 5.44 with a standard deviation of 2.91. Internal consistency was deemed good with a Cronbach's alpha of 0.80. With regard to validity, confirmatory factor analysis obtained an x squared of 77.3, a comparative fit index of 0.99, a root mean square of approximation of 0.04, and a Tucker-Lewis index of 0.99, all indicating a good fit for the model being used. A receiver operator curve analysis showed that the DAST-10 accounted for 90% of the area under curve, indicating that the DAST-10 was accurate for drug use disorder detection. Overall, the study suggests that the DAST-20 and 10 versions are reliable and valid tools for DUD assessment and screening, and might be equivalent across different languages with regard to internal consistency. The final study that I would like to discuss that provided quantitative data with regard to the psychometric properties of the DAST-10 is a study that was published in 2014 in the Journal of Psychoactive Drugs. This study compared the DAST-10 with another commonly used drug abuse assessment measure known as the Drug Use Disorders Identification Test, also known as the DUDIT, as well as the shortened version of the Addiction Profile Index, or the API-S. These assessments were administered to a sample of prisoners in Turkey. With regard to internal consistency, the DAST-10 demonstrated a Cronbach's alpha of 0.87, indicating good internal consistency for the measure's items. With regard to convergent validity, correlational analysis between the DAST-10 and the DUDIT produced an R-value of 0.86. Correlational analysis between the DAST-10 and the API produced an R-value of 0.84. Both of these high R values demonstrate that the DAST-10 exhibits good convergent validity. With regard to predictive validity, the results of the DAST-10 revealed an area under curve of 0.897. A COTA score of 4 was most critical for identifying participants with a drug problem. In order to measure discriminant validity, the researchers conducted a student's t-test which produced a t-value of negative 13.47. which was significant at the 0.001 alpha level. This indicates that the DAST-10 shows good discriminant validity as it was able to accurately differentiate prisoners with drug use disorder from those without. Overall, the findings of this study support the DAST-10 as a reliable and valid drug abuse screening instrument. This table provides a better visual representation of how the DAST-10 differs in all of these facets between all of the studies described. Based upon the findings of these studies, the DAST-10 has shown to exhibit good reliability and validity. Most of the studies described found the internal consistency to be 0.80 or higher, and test-retest reliability to be above 0.5. Regarding validity, most of the studies found the R value for convergent validity to be above 0.75. The studies also exhibited good values for predictive and discriminant validity. Overall, the DAST-10 has shown to be a reliable and valid measure for diagnosing individuals who are abusing drugs.
The real-world application of this assessment can be used in a variety of places. Those include drug treatment centers when individuals want to admit themselves or they're being admitted. They can take the assessment and the staff can decide what type of program they should be placed in. It can be applied in schools where students are seen to be lowering grades, not being as social, and having problems at home. It can be applied to hospital, to patients who seem to have been admitted because of drug-related incidents.